Welcome to Bay City State Park, home of Tobico Marsh, one of the largest remaining intact wetlands on the coastal Great Lakes. Tobico Marsh spans nearly 5 miles, containing 1,652 acres and 3 distinct habitats: marshland, open water, and mixed hardwood forest.
Tobico Marsh has always been a gathering place as far back as the Chippewa that would be hunting and fishing here. It is a wetland coastline habitat that is different from other wetlands. So you might find things that live in a dune forested type area to vernal pools, temporary puddles of water.
Wetlands, including Tobico Marsh, act as a natural filtration system for waters flowing into the Great Lakes. Today, less than 50% of historical Great Lakes coastal wetlands remain. In Michigan, most of the wetland loss has occurred from Saginaw Bay to Lake Erie, where Saginaw County has lost 87% of its historic wetlands. As one of the last remaining wetlands on Saginaw Bay, Tobico Marsh plays an extremely important role in the water quality of the Great Lakes. How do wetlands, like Tobico Marsh, clean the water that enters the Great Lakes?
So Tobico Marsh can play a lot of different roles, and marshes in general, in controlling nutrient inputs into a system. A wetland actually traps things coming off, like after a rainfall event where you've got things running off into the bay. It'll actually trap and collect things like the nutrients that feed the plants to grow.
How do wetlands work? Ground and surface waters, including water from cities and agricultural fields, flow into the wetland. These waters carry fertilizer, gasoline, and other contaminants with them. As this contaminated water flows through the wetland, it is filtered by plants and sediments. Bacteria and other microbes help break down nutrients and contaminants. Water leaving the wetland and entering the Great Lakes is cleaner than when it entered the wetland.
The cattails are a major example that filters the water, but in turn it also is a habitat for a red-winged blackbird who exclusively only makes their nest right on the cattail grasses.
Excess nutrients, warming waters, and invasive species like zebra and quagga mussels all contribute to algae blooms like the ones shown in these images of the Great Lakes taken from space. Algae blooms can turn the lakes from a beautiful blue to a mucky green. Algae are microscopic plant cells that live in the Great Lakes and most everywhere water is found. Algae are the base of the food web, just like plants on land, and without algae and other aquatic plants, there would be no fish. While algae and other plant materials are a critical component of a healthy Great Lakes ecosystem, too much can cause serious problems for people and animals. One of the biggest algae problems affecting Saginaw Bay is muck. The Michigan Department of Natural Resources has recognized the presence of nuisance muck in Saginaw Bay as far back as the 1960s. Many Great Lakes scientists, public health officials, and natural resource managers have been studying the muck to understand what it's made of, why it washes on shore, and what impacts it has on the natural ecosystem.
The muck that oftentimes people refer to along our beach line here, although not unique to the Bay City State Park, it is found throughout the Saginaw Bay area, tends to have a very large impact on this area alone.
Well, the Saginaw Bay muck issue is really complex, and I think that's what people don't understand. The muck appears to be this slimy, gooey, very smelly mixture of dead and decaying things on the beach. There is really no way, I think, in general, we can stop and prevent muck, because it is a natural part of the ecosystem, and that you have vegetation that breaks off, sloughs off, and then washes on shore. The position of the beach in particular is a depositional zone where it is going to wash up. So that is not something we can resolve, because we're dealing with a natural phenomenon, we're dealing with climate change, and so we can reduce it, but we can't eliminate it.
Recently, in the last 10 years, we've noticed that there's been some improvements from either higher water levels, which we're experiencing right now, but also I believe it's partially from awareness of what actually causes the muck. That's part of our mission here, is to bring awareness to the marsh system and how it operates and how we affect our Saginaw Bay watershed in the area.
Preserving Great Lakes coastal wetlands, like Tobico Marsh, is critically important for healthy Great Lakes.